Our author says, on a subsequent page, in 1739, a great part of the province was disposed to favour what was called the land bank or manufactory scheme, which was begun, or rather revived, in this year, and produced such great and lasting mischiefs, that a particular relation of the rise, progress and overthrow of it may be of use to discourage any attempts of the like nature in future ages. History of Massachusetts, Vol. E. Pages 352. It appears that after an interval of 25 years, the land bank scheme rose once again above the surface of the political and financial waters. Governor Hutchinson says that the scheme produced great and lasting mischiefs. Let us see what these mischiefs were. The project of the Bank of 1714 was revived. The projector of that bank now put himself at the head of 700 or 800 persons, some few of rank and good estate, but generally of low condition among the plebeians, and of small estate, and many of them perhaps insolvent. This notable company were to give credit to 50,000 duffel money, to be issued in bills. Each person to mortgage a real estate in proportion to the sums he subscribed and took out, or to give bond with 2 sureties. But personal security was not to be taken for more than 00 from any one person. 10 directors and a treasurer were to be chosen by the company. Every subscriber or partner was to pay 3% interest per annum for the sum taken out, and 5% of the principal 8. And he that did not pay bills might pay in the produce and manufacture of the province at such rates as the directors from time to time should set, and they the bills should commonly pass in lawful money. The pretence was, that, by thus furnishing a medium and instrument of trade, not only the inhabitants in general would be better able to procure the province bills of credit for their taxes, but trade, foreign and inland, would revive and flourish. The fate of the project was thought to depend on the opinion which the General Court should form of it. It was necessary, therefore, to have a House of Representatives well disposed. Besides the 800-person subscribers, the needy part of the province in general favor the scheme. One of their votes will go as far in elections as one of the most opulent. The former are most numerous. And it appeared that by far the majority of representatives for 1740 were subscribers to or favorers of the scheme, and they have ever since been distinguished by the name of the Land Bank House. Men of estates and the principal merchants of the province abhorred the project, and refused to receive the bills. But great numbers of shopkeepers who had lived for a long time on the fraud of a depreciating currency, and many small traders, gave credit to the bills. The directors, it was said, by a vote of the company, became traders 9, and issued just such bills as they thought proper without any fund or security for their ever being redeemed. They purchased every sort of commodity, ever so much a drug, for the sake of pushing off their bills. And, by one means or other, a large sum, perhaps 50 or 60,000 pounds, was floated. To lessen the temptation to receive the bills, a company of merchants agreed to issue their notes, or bills, redeemable in silver and gold at distant periods, much like the scheme in 1733, and attended with no better effect. The governor exerted himself to blast this fraudulent undertaking, the Land Bank. Not only such civil and military officers as were directors or partners, but all who received or paid any of the bills were displaced. The governor negatived the person chosen Speaker of the House, being a director of the bank, and afterwards negatived 13 of the newly elected councillors, who were directors or partners in, or favorers of the scheme. But all was insufficient to suppress it. Perhaps the major part in number of the inhabitants of the province openly or secretly, were well-wishers of it. One of the directors afterwards acknowledged to me that, although he entered into the company with a view to the public interest, yet, When he found what power and influence they had in all public concerns, he was convinced it was more than belonged to them, more than they could make a good use of, and therefore unwarrantable. Many of the more sensible, discreet persons of the province saw a general confusion at hand. The authority of the Parliament to control all public and private persons and proceedings in the colonies was at that day questioned by nobody. Application was therefore made to Parliament for an act to suppress the company, which, notwithstanding the opposition made by their agent, was very easily obtained, and therein it was declared that the Act of the 6th of King George I, Chapter XVII, did, does and shall extend to the colonies and plantations of America. It was said the Act of George I, when it was passed, had no relation to America. But another act, 20 years after, gave it force, even from the passing it, which it never could have had without. This was said to be an instance of the transcendent power of Parliament. Although the company was dissolved, yet the Act of Parliament gave the possessors of the bills a right of action against every partner or director for the sums expressed, with interest. The company was in a maze. At a general meeting, some, it is said, were for running all hazards, although the Act subjected them to a premium. But the directors had more prudence, and advised them to declare that they considered themselves dissolved, and meet only to consult upon some method of redeeming their bills of the possessors, which every man engaged to endeavour in proportion to his interest, and to pay in to the directors, or some of them, to burn or destroy. Had the company issued their bills at the value expressed on the face of them, they would have had no reason to complain at being obliged to redeem them at the same rate, but as this was not the case in general, and many of the possessors of the bills had acquired them for half their value, as expressed, equity could not be done. And, so far as respected the company, perhaps, the Parliament was not very anxious. The loss they sustained being but a just penalty for their unwarrantable undertaking, if it had been properly applied. Had not the Parliament interposed, the province would have been in the utmost confusion, and the authority of government entirely in the Land Bank Company. p. 353. The mischiefs occasioned by this land bank seems to have been political, rather than economic, for our author nowhere affirms that the bill holders, not members of the company, lost anything by the institution. We would remark that there are certain mischiefs which are regarded not without indulgence by posterity. Governor Hutchinson ought to have explained more in detail the nature of the evils he complains of, and also to have told us why he, a declared enemy of popular institutions, opposed the advocates of the bank so uncompromisingly. Mutualism operates, by its very nature, to render political government founded on arbitrary force, superfluous. That is, it operates to the